Right now at 6, going in the wrong direction.
Kids in Oregon have not come back to school.
How Oregon is the only state where test scores have gotten worse post-COVID.
Plus, a 5-decade-long mystery solved. How investigators finally identified the body of a teenager discovered on Sauvie Island.
Then, push back against a proposed hike in fees for animal rescues.
It's going to be detrimental to every rescue here in Oregon.
And from Switzerland to the Rose City.
Portland is our home. We're committed to the running community here.
How a business built around putting one foot in front of the other is making a big leap.
Thanks for joining us at 6. I'm David Molko.
And I'm China Green. We begin tonight with new research that shows most students are bouncing back from learning loss during the pandemic, though in Oregon, kids are moving in the wrong direction.
Thomas Schultz is in the newsroom tonight with the update. Thomas, what'd you find out here?
Well, David and China, researchers at Harvard and Stanford studied 30 states and found nationwide students made up ground in reading and math last year. There was only one state where kids continued to lose ground: Oregon.
It was really hard to read.
New numbers are in for students' continued education recovery. And nationally, kids narrowed math and reading learning loss from 2022 to 2023. Though in Oregon, elementary and middle schoolers are now even further behind. Now 3/4 of a year behind in math and 2/3 of a year in reading.
One challenge that many districts are facing is high absenteeism.
Thomas Kane, a researcher and Harvard professor of education, says another roadblock is that school districts spent federal funding in different ways.
We handed out, $190 billion to school districts around the country and said, here, you figure it out.
Some districts spent funds to retain staff, others for tutoring to replace in-person class time. And research now shows programs like tutoring help students bounce back.
I think it definitely should be used to target learning losses, like figuring out what a kid needs and then directing resources to that.
Micah Yai is an associate professor of education at Lewis and Clark. She agrees absenteeism and missed in-person learning played huge factors, though there's other reasons for the backslide too. One, technology, which Yai says is a useful tool that may be overused statewide. Another, staff shortages.
There is a national teaching shortage, but in Oregon specifically, there's a substitute teaching shortage, so the whole system is stressed.
And in a statement, the Oregon Department of Education says they aren't satisfied with the results, though $100 million of new state funds is going to reading development like tutoring and summer school. And in this legislative session, ODE wants another $50 million invested in summer learning. And experts say with the new data, they now know what programs work and can target money efficiently as federal funds expire this fall. Though, if more isn't done,
students in many school districts in Oregon will be behind when the federal money runs out.
And that's a scary thought. And because learning loss could continue, Kane says schools should tell families now if students are behind so they can make plans this summer to help them catch up. David?
Clearly a lot of work to be done there. Thank you, Thomas. In your headlines this evening, the superintendent of the Tigard-Tualatin School District is stepping down at the end of the school year. Dr. Sue Ricky Smith made the announcement today, saying it's time to retire after her 25-year career in education. It has been a tough school year for the district, including multiple threats made against Hazelbrook Middle School after a student-on-student attack got shared all over social media. Since then, some parents have called for her to step down.
There could soon be a major strike at Oregon's 7 public universities. The union representing 4,600 workers at those schools declared an impasse in negotiations with the schools this morning. The workers include everyone from cooks to janitors to advisors and maintenance staff. The two sides have been negotiating since last fall, and the main sticking point is pay. Now that an impasse has been declared, both sides have to submit their final contract proposals by next Friday.
An hours-long standoff in northwest Portland is over after police arrested a man they say tried to break into a home on Northwest 28th Place with a knife. Authorities say the person inside that house shot back. It appears the two people knew each other. Police tell us 41-year-old Jerome Strickland then ran back to his apartment a few blocks away on Upshur and would not come out. The suspect was arrested around 4 this afternoon. It does not appear anyone was injured.
We have new information about a shooting in Brush Prairie where a Clark County Sheriff's deputy killed a suspect. The shooting happened early Tuesday morning at a home on Northeast 152nd Avenue. Vancouver police now tell us that a woman was being held against her will and sexually assaulted. As we previously reported, law enforcement says the man pulled out what looked to be a gun and deputies shot and killed him. Vancouver police now confirms investigators did find a gun, but it's still unclear if he fired at deputies.
In Vancouver, more than 50 firefighters and first responders were called out to a high-rise fire that sparked around 10:30 this morning at the Smith Tower Apartments on Washington Street. When firefighters got inside, they found a smoke-filled hallway and fire in one unit. It was quickly put out. The person who lives in that unit was not hurt, but will have to find somewhere else to stay. No word yet on the cause.
Some local animal rescues are upset about a proposal to increase annual fees by hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. The Oregon Department of Agriculture says the increased fees are needed to fund the program that monitors rescue organizations. But local rescues say this hike could put them out of business.
How is this going to affect all of us rescues? We already fork out a ton of money, for these dogs. Look at them. We fork out tons of money. We vet them, we get them up here, or we pull them from local people here.
There's also a proposed change that worries foster-based rescues. It would give ODA the right to inspect the homes of foster owners. There's a virtual public hearing on all of this next Tuesday at 9 a.m. Matt?
Thanks, China. What a day it has been. And look how it's ending at the Oregon coast with a great sunset at Cannon Beach. Lots of color in the sky, even though the sun has gone down. 52 there right now. We hit 63. Not a record for the day, but definitely our warmest day of the month and our warmest day in almost 3 months. Got to go back to the 5th of December. Last time we had a day warmer than today. So again, just really, really pleasant all around the state of Oregon with sunshine from corner to corner. That's going to change this weekend, though. We have a winter storm watch from Sunday afternoon until Monday afternoon for the entire run of the Washington and Oregon Cascades. Wind advisory Sunday into Monday for the Columbia Basin as the wind is really going to pick up there. So why? Well, we're going to get a ton of snow in the Cascades. What about the valleys? Not so much. It's going to be a cold rain beginning Sunday, possibly a few wet snowflakes mixing in with the rain Monday morning or Tuesday morning, but no accumulations even close to the valley floor, so it's just going to be cold and wet. Sticking snow staying above really 1,000 feet, but the heavy snow above 2,000 feet. We'll show you how much is on the way in just a bit. Back to you.
Hey, at least we have today and tomorrow.
Sure
Thank
do.
you, Matt. Well, 54 years ago today, the body of a teenager was discovered on Sauvie Island. And now with the help of new DNA testing, she has finally been identified.
Ashley Grahams has the update. And Ashley, it sounds like this family will finally bring, this information will finally bring one family some much needed answers.
Yes, David, China, this is an answer for the family of Sandra Young, a Grant High School student. She went missing in the late 1960s. Here's a look at an article that ran in the Oregonian in February of 1970. That's when a Boy Scout leader found her body. She was in a shallow grave on Sauvie Island, and for years she was unidentified. In 2018, investigators caught a break when a federal grant funded new DNA testing. But it wasn't until 2023 that real progress was made. A family member uploaded their DNA to GEDmatch, a DNA matching site. That DNA turned out to be key in identifying the teenager.
We were really happy and honored to be a part of this resolution, as bittersweet as it is, because finally we have a first and last name for this teenage girl, and finally we're able to give her back to her family.
Bittersweet, as she said, because investigators believe Sandra Young could be the victim of a violent crime. In the Oregonian article from 1970, it says her skull was fractured and it's likely she was murdered. So this case is not over. Portland police are involved in the investigation. They told me they're doing what they can to get justice for Sandra.
Ashley, thank you for covering that story. Ballots will be mailed out today for Washington's presidential primary. And a reminder here, this is the election where you have to declare a party affiliation to make your vote count. Washington Secretary of State Steve Hobbs explains why.
The nomination of president with the political parties has to be done by the party process. So as people are watching the news, you notice other states are doing this, like New Hampshire and Iowa, and some of them are caucus states and some are primary states. But it's an internal party process. And this is backed up by the U.S. Supreme Court.
Election officials are expecting a 50% voter turnout this election. Ballots are due March 12th. And a reminder here, Washington's top 2 primaries for the other races is in August.
Meanwhile, Washington State Senate has overwhelmingly voted to make harassing election workers a felony. The bill comes a few months after 4 county elections offices received envelopes with suspicious powder. It would increase the penalty for harassing a worker from up to 1 year in jail to as many as 5 years in prison. Many other states are considering similar legislation. The bill now heads to the House.
Straight ahead at 6, they're calling it a bridge deal. How the short-term agreement between the city and the Blazers leaves some big questions.
Plus, On is now on Northwest 23rd. Lace up those shoes. Why some say this Rose City opening is kind of a big deal.
And later, it's empowering and building confidence. This all-girls robotics team known as the Beta Blues shows off what they are working on ahead of upcoming competition in Salem.